Well, welcome back. Let's reconvene. Welcome back from the lunch. I hope you enjoyed. We got some compliments, so we appreciate that. So we are going back to the next presentation from Zutari. Tapelo, are you on?
I am on. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Let me open up my presentation. Please let me know when it is now projected on your side.
It is projected. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Just a recap a little bit of the whole NDC. Basically, this is the NDC as we have discussed it, the draft thereof of 33.35%. As I said, it is built up of mitigation potential from bottom up. It is made up of different mitigation measures that have now reduced this 33.35%. And now we are going into those mitigation measures per sector. So, first of all, starting with the energy sector, this background I think is quite important so that we know where we are starting. The sector is characterized heavily by reliance on biomass, which accounts for 87% of the final total energy, firewood and charcoal. This is the information we already know, but I think it's important to know the context. With modern energy still very low and national grid electricity access standing at 25%. Supply is dominated by hydropower, with installed capacity reaching 2,000 megawatts as of end of 2024 with those facilities. There are a lot of hydropower projects that have been included, have been envisaged to go into this, but I think the key thing is this least cost electricity generation and transmission plan. That's what has informed a lot of the mitigation measures that you're going to see here, particularly for the electricity part. The modeling considerations, I think everyone can look at them and you can read them in the document, but essentially they are just talking about, some of the key considerations that we have included in the modeling part. This is the electricity sector. It has got 3 groups of mitigation measures, and I say 3 groups because each one of these contains quite a lot of things in one. But the first one, it talks to renewable energy generation, increasing grid capacity through various measures like waste to energy. Remember earlier I mentioned that you cannot separate energy and follow and waste because of things like waste to energy, but also a lot of hydropower then coming in, an increase in hydropower, things like bagasse, megawatts, 20 megawatts of solar and wind, all of them being online between 2015 and 2030. This time frame just shows that we have modeled everything from the baseline of 2019 going all the way up. It's a continuous model that we have used. And as I said, we used 2 models. While for baseline, we only adopted what came from the one model, which is the close. But when we looked at the mitigation potentials, the 2 models gave a range, an average of about 4.7 million tons of CO2 with a maximum of about 9 million tons by between 2026 and 2035. Please note that this is cumulative. This is the mitigation that you can get throughout the entire project, throughout the entire period, if you implement all of these things. Where we can try to do it also per year, but remember that there will be assumptions in terms of will it start in 2026 or 2025. So it's much better to say when the whole thing has been implemented, this is how much mitigation potential it will give us throughout that whole period. And we did say we learned from the NDC 2.0 around data. So we've included indicators here, and thanks to the CCD, Medi and Robert, who emphasized the need for us to include these indicators so that we know what to include in that measurement and reporting system. What should we be measuring going forward? And therefore we'll need to know where we'll get it from. So the two indicators that we should be monitoring primarily for this kind of mitigation measure is we need to be chasing how many megawatts of renewable energy have been installed. And we need to disaggregate it by solar, by hydro, by gas, by wind, to say 5 megawatts of wind is now online, 15 of solar is now online, 100 of hydro is now online, and we need to be tracking that. But that's only one part, because that tells us the implementation. But the actual reduction will come from the second point, which is the indicator, megawatts of renewable energy, electricity generated. How much of that solar installed capacity is actually starting to generate? A plant might have been finished in 2026, but only starting to generate electricity in 2028. So we will actually reduce emissions from 2028 and not when it was installed. So that indicator is quite critical as well. Reduction in transmission and distribution losses based on that policy document will give us between 0.45 and 0.9 million tons CO2 cumulatively. And here we need to be looking at megawatts of potential electricity losses saved. We need to say in the absence of the intervention, this is how much electricity we were getting on the other side. Now that we have put this intervention that reduces transmission and distribution, we are now getting so much. That difference is what has now been saved in terms of the losses, because we are expecting that if we reduce transmission and distribution losses, on the consumption side, the number will be higher. So that versus the baseline is what we need to be tracking. Power sector specific technology targets, binding generation capacity targets for individual renewable energy technologies like wind, solar, geothermal, and hydro, and that is anticipated to give between 5.2 and 10.4 megawatts. We need to be tracking megawatts of individual renewable energy technologies installed. This is very similar to what you get in mitigation measure number 1. Now, moving from electricity generation, going to industrial energy use and oil and gas. In industrial energy use, we have identified two groups. Improvement in energy efficiency, industrial energy efficiency. We say talking there about 10% reduction from business as usual by 2025. And then we are expecting between 10 and 12.8 reduction in emissions by between 2026 and 2035. And there we need to be looking at amount of energy saved through the energy efficiency intervention. As I said, similarly, this one, you look at the baseline, how much electricity is coming out on the other side or being used, and how much is now being used after we put the intervention. The difference is now what has been saved. Industrial fuel switching, 25% met by sustainable biomass by 2030, rising to 40% by 2040. The key word there is the sustainable biomass. That means we need to be planting and taking it away, planting and take it away, not taking from natural forests. That will not be sustainable. With that, it is expected between 1.15 and 6.3 million tons in terms of emission savings, and we say in percentage of industrial energy switched to sustainable biomass. We need to say 10% of it, 15%, 25% of it. And then if we know the total amount, that 25% can be quantified in megawatt hours or in kilowatt hours, which we can multiply by an emission factor, and we know exactly the impact of that particular measure. In the oil and gas sector, as we said, this one is something new. Yes, you can imagine the oil and gas sector at the moment, it is still not clear how fast it will grow and how far it will grow. But it is anticipated definitely on its own. If we do nothing, it will increase emissions in the energy sector. So it says the mitigation measure here is adopt sustainable practices in the oil and gas industry, particularly focusing on two things. Zero routine gas flaring and minimizing emissions from leaks and venting. So those are two key things. So flaring, those who are in the oil and gas sector will know that those are, that's when you just burn the gas on its own from an oil and gas power plant, an oil and gas plant, and also the parties around leaks and venting to be minimized. We're expecting that will reduce emissions by between 2.56 and 7.24 million tons in the period 2026 to 2035. And there we need to be tracking how many return gas flaring incidences are there, and then how much each one is actually releasing, and the amount of oil and gas leaked. We need to be tracking how much that is. Still in the energy sector, but now we are looking at residential and commercial energy use. We've got quite a few here. The first one we're looking at is lighting energy efficiency in households, introducing energy efficient lighting, CFLs and LEDs. We're saying 75% reduction from BAU by 2030. That means about 75% 75% of the lights of the light bulbs being CFLs and LEDs by 2030. That will give us about 0.075, between 0.075 and 0.124 million tons over that period. And we need to be tracking megawatts of lighting energy savings. So that means we need to know how many lights have been installed, and that those lights, we know the size and the consumption thereof versus the baseline, and then it will give us the megawatts of lighting energy savings that we have achieved. Residential cooling improvements, reducing energy demand for cooling, including air conditioners and refrigerators. We're saying in NDC 3 improvement in average efficiencies of 55% by 2055. Saving us between 0.062 and 0.124 million tons CO2 by 2035. And there we look at megawatts of energy demand reduced. Cooking, mitigation, efficiency and fuel switch. So these are combined together. We're looking at, in the residential part, about 50% electric cooking by 2025, integrating energy efficient fuel wood and charcoal stoves as part of the broader clean cooking transition. And here we have highlighted an example of a program that is already planned. It's called the SOLCO, Solar Electric Cooking Partnership Program, that is led by the UN. And the total impact that is anticipated here is between 70 and 77 million tons of CO2. And here we need to be tracking the percentage of residential households which have switched to efficient cooking technologies. And when we say efficient technologies, here we are talking about electric cooking, we are talking about energy efficient fuel wood, we are talking about charcoal stoves, we are talking about photovoltaic. So all of those things are clumped into this one measure. And we are saying we also need to track amount of traditional biomass used or saved or avoided, because that tells us the baseline and the change in emissions. Cooking mitigation, energy efficiency and fuel switch. This is commercial. That one was residential. 50% of schools or institutions using improved stoves by 2030, and 15% LPG and 35% of electric stoves. We are anticipating that will save us between 23.4 million tons and 27.6 million tons over that period. Still similar to the above, we're saying the percentage of schools using improved stoves and the amount of traditional biomass usage saved. That's what we need to be tracking to check how far we are with that measure. Now we're moving to road transport. This has got the largest number of mitigation measures. The first one being transport fuel efficiency, and we are looking at targets of 10-year time lag, 20% of fuel efficiency by 2030, 35% by 2040, and 50% fuel efficiency by 2060. So this means that we need to change our vehicles to more fuel efficient ones. We anticipate this to give us between 7.5 and 7.8 million tons over that period. So we need to simply say what is the percentage of fuel efficient vehicles on the road, because we know the statistics of the average distance traveled by a vehicle over the period. So that means that percentage will give us the percentage of emissions that we are likely to reduce. Of course, the GHG inventory will also show. Alternative fuel switch, promoting LNG, ethanol, biodiesel at 1% per annum. So we are increasing it every year 1% per annum, including e-buses as in that strategy in the GKMA strategy by 2030. That we expect it to give us around about 1.1 and 1.14 million tons over that period. We need to be tracking how much LNG, how much biofuel, how much electricity is used in the transport sector, and the percentage of fuels using those, percentages of vehicles that are using those fuels. Non-motorized transport. This is now creating non-motorized transport corridors, about 100 kilometers by 2030. And non-motorized transport friendly control issue rules by 2025, and 5% reduction in motor demand by 2050. So we are hoping when we create more corridors on non-motorized corridors, then people will actually make use of them. Therefore, the easiest way to track at least implementation is the kilometers on non-motorized corridors. We are hoping the actual reduction in demand will see it from the inventory anyway. We expect this measure to give us between 2.7 and 3.7 million ton reduction over that period. Meter gauge railway rehabilitation. This is freight. The plan is to rehabilitate 634 kilometers of railway by 2026, 22% fuel economy improvement by 2030. We are expecting to get about 0.001 and 3 times that over that period. And here we need to just track kilometers rehabilitated. Efficient operation of public transportation, 1,000 high-quality city buses with ITS systems by 2025, 5% reduction in vehicle kilometers and 5% increase in the load factor. We are expecting that to give us between 0.05 and 0.1 over that period in terms of reduction of mitigation of emissions. And we need to be tracking percentage change in public transport load factor. Improved load factor of road freight transport. Similarly, improves the average load factor of road freight vehicles through logistics optimization, backhaul matching, reducing vehicle kilometers per ton of freight moved, and lowering fuel consumption and emissions. We're expecting it to give us between approximately 0.001 million tons over that period, and still we need to be tracking a load factor. The GKMA passenger service, implementing 61 kilometers of passenger meter gauge rail in 2030, 22% fuel improvement relative to the 2015 baseline, will give us between 0.052 and 0.1, and we need to be tracking kilometers of passenger meter rail in GKMA. Electric vehicles, basically this electric vehicle adoption is penetration and allowing demand-driven uptake beyond what is in the NDC2 targets. Here we are looking at between 0.774 and 3.23 million tons saved over that period, and we need to be tracking the number of electric vehicles on the road. Moving to another sector, IPPO. IPPO sector, as we said, it is the smallest of all the sectors, but we have taken them in the order of the IPCC guidelines, which starts with energy and then industry, followed by agriculture, forestry, and then waste. So here, the bulk of it really is cement and steel manufacturing. The bulk of our emissions, everywhere else, the emissions don't come from there. But I would like you to note that, of course, industry uses a lot of energy. And here it is, I've mentioned that here energy use across all subsectors is disaggregated by fuel type and driven by production. And it says both subsectors rely heavily on biomass and fossil fuel for industrial heat. Please note that energy use in the industrial sector is captured here. In energy sector, industrial use. So here in IPPU, it is only emissions that are not related to energy use, but that are related to other reactions other than combustion. Hence, the sector looks small. But we know industry as a whole, it's not small. It's just that emissions specifically for this type are mostly from cement or production of clinker, and then iron and steel. And the measures really is one focusing on clinker, the other one is on steel, using hydrogen-based direct reduction DRI production approach, which introduces capacity constraints on conventional blast furnace. So basically moving away from the original blast furnace approaches to direct reduction, induction process for all new steel capacity by after 2035. And this gives us between 3 to 3.9 and 6.3 million tons savings over that period. And here we need to then be looking at how many of those plants do we still have as conventional blast furnaces, and how many have now moved to DRI, and we look at the percentage. The more we get of the DRI, it means this mitigation measure is actually being implemented. Clinker, we know cement production or cement, the key ingredient in cement is clinker, and basically that's where the emissions are coming from in the production of clinker. We're saying then we reduce the ratio of clinker in cement by substituting with other low emissions or low carbon or intensive products like fly ash and slag. So 63% clinker ratio by 2035, 50% ratio by 2030 is a more ambitious target. This will give us, we anticipate this should to give us between 7.6 and 14.3 million ton reduction over that period. So here we need to be tracking the percentage of cement where clinker has been substituted, and we need to be tracking also the percentage of reduction in the clinker in the cement. Agriculture, as we said, it is the second largest one after forestry and land use. We know agriculture is the backbone of Uganda's economy, accounting for a lot, dominated by small holdings. It contributes to about 27% of Uganda's GHG emissions. In the GHG inventory that we presented earlier, we had clumped it up with forestry and land use, so it didn't come out very clearly, making it the second largest emitting factor after land use and forestry. That's what I've just talked about. It's mostly, it has emissions that are specific to livestock, but emissions that are also specific to soils. Now, attacking both sides, we start with the soil part, which is climate smart agriculture, the bulk of it. We are saying promoting adoption of improved fertilizer application practices to reduce nitrous oxide from the agricultural soils. We expect about 0.284 and 0.6 million ton reduction by 2035 or over the period 2026 to 2035. Here we need to be tracking amount of land where improved fertilizer has been applied, because then that will give us a percentage reduction versus the total arable land. Better rice management, avoiding flood irrigation, reducing emissions in rice by 9.2% by 2035. These two values are beyond the NDC 3, but I think the modeling, as I've shown you, it goes well beyond 2050. Sort of well beyond 2035. This measure, we're anticipating that it will give us between 0.06 and 0.11 reduction between 2026 and 2035. And we need to be tracking amount of land where improved rice management has been practiced. The more it is done, then the more we expect to see reductions. Modernization of agriculture, rainwater harvesting and irrigation. As you can imagine, this also is quite, it's containing quite a lot. That's why the impact is quite significant. But we are saying it includes things like mechanization, expansion of irrigation systems, and cultivation of vegetables, reducing emissions from the soils. We're expecting between 15.6 and 32.8 million tons reduction over that period, and we need to be tracking area of agricultural land that is now irrigated, amount of rainwater harvested, percentage of vegetables cultivated in greenhouses at minimum. Reducing food system losses in transportation, distribution, and resale. Here we eliminate all losses by 2070, reducing production and demand by about 30% by 2070. So to come to the NDC period, you simply extrapolate backwards. You keep you look at how that increase will be by 2035. We anticipate the actual mitigation to be between 0.4 and 0.8 million tons over that period, and we need to be tracking the percentage of food losses that has been avoided. On the livestock part, there are two big mitigation measures. We are talking about livestock management, promoting improved cattle breeds and feeds, improving water availability, and establishing further agroforestry plantations. We are expecting it to give us between 8.7 and 16.2 million tons in terms of reduction over that period. And we need to be tracking percentage of farms, livestock farms using improved cattle breeding and feeding. Higher collection rates of manure, increased collection rate of manure for uncontrolled management, and biogas utilization. Basically, that manure that would otherwise turn into methane, we then bring it, we burn it, we move it from methane to CO2 through burning and utilization for biogas. We expect that to give us between 0.33 and 7.1 million tons between 2026 and 2035. We need to be tracking the collection rates of the livestock manure. Forestry, which is the single largest source of emissions in Uganda, accounting for about 50% of national emissions. And this really are coming from deforestation, land conversion, basic food for agricultural purposes, but also for fuel wood, and really the fact that population is growing. Forest cover has fallen about an estimated 45% in the 19th century, which is approximately 1% per annum. Wetlands and peatlands, they have been included here. They provide critical services, ecosystem services that cannot be ignored. And the peatlands here, it says that the data gap is quite high in terms of understanding how much of them are still fully functional. The measures that we are looking at here, we are talking about improved, and this is sustainable fuel wood and charcoal production. We are looking at improving charcoal kilns linked to bioenergy woodlots. Improving 100% of charcoal production uses improved kilns by 2030, and by 2020, 75%. We are expecting this to give us between 19 million tons CO2 over that period between 19 and 30. And we need to be tracking percentage and quantity of charcoal produced through improved kilns. Large-scale commercial pole and sawlog plantations, including commercial pole plantations and sawlog plantations. So this means the aim here is so that we can do sustainable logging or sustainable pole management. Because if we then go into the natural forests, it means we keep degrading it and deforesting. But if we plant our own and we remove from them, then it becomes a sustainable system. We're expecting this to give us about 0.001 million tons over that period. And we need to be tracking the area used for large-scale commercial plantation. The more it grows, we are hoping that it will mean people don't go and get the logs from the natural forests anymore. Commercial smallholder plantations, including community bioenergy woodlots and pole and timber plantations, similar to the other one in terms of mitigation as well, area used for smallholder plantations. Livestock management in terms of land use, rehabilitating 10,000, it's actually not livestock management. This is forest management. Apologies. This is not livestock, it's forest management. Rehabilitating 100,000 hectares of forest through collaborative forest management, restoring degraded forest reserves, land use management practices. As you can see, there are a lot of things included in here, but they can be summarized into 4 of them. Rehabilitation, restoration, reforestation, land use management. And that will give us quite a lot, between 43.5 and 61.5. As you can see, those that have a lot of things in them in terms of the activities, you'll see that they give us quite a lot of mitigation over the period, between 43.5 and 61.4. We need to be look at the quality of previously degraded forest land restored. So we need to be looking at the quality and quantity, should have included here the quantity of land that has been rehabilitated, that has been restored. Here we're talking wetlands and peatlands. increase wetland coverage from 8.9% to approximately 12% by 2030 through peatland and wetland management. We're expecting to get between 0.001 and 0.005 in terms of reduction, with tracking the percentage coverage in wetland and peatland. So that means that data issue around peatland needs to be managed by the ministry responsible for land use and forestry. The last sector is Uganda's waste sector, which is under increasing pressure from rapid population growth, urbanization, and rising incomes. We are told that Kampala generates between 2,000 and 2,000 tons per day of waste, but only 50% of it is formally collected because the other one is openly dumped and burned. Waste composition is dominated by organic matter, which is approximately 43%, and there's currently no systematic separation at source or significant diversion to controlled disposal sites. On the wastewater side, access to centralized sewage remains limited, with only 1% of Greater Kampala connected to central sewage systems. So basically, our mitigation measures will then attack these issues that are creating emissions. First of all, expanding sewer and waste treatment coverage, increase from 50% in 2020 to 90% by 2050. We're expecting to get between 3.1 and 4.6 million tons CO2 in emission reduction, and what we need to be tracking is percentage of wastewater treatment coverage, how much the coverage is increasing annually. Increase in solid waste collection coverage of 50% by 2035. And we're expecting to get around about 5.1, 5.2 million tons reduction over that period. And we need to be tracking solid waste collection rates. Are we now collecting more solid waste rather than dumping or burning it? Increase in anaerobic digestion and composting. This increase in the composting and anaerobic decomposition with biogas collection to 19.4% by 2035. We're expecting to get between 0.6 and 1.2 million ton reduction over the period 2026 to 2035. And we need to be tracking percentage of organic waste that is composted. We need to be tracking quantity of anaerobic biogas collected. Because if it is then collected, we are hoping then it will be bent and turned into CO2 rather than going into the atmosphere as CH4. Reduce municipal organic waste, reduce organic solid waste, food and yard by 6% by 2035. This time period is now outside NDC, so the critical one is the 6% by 2035. It will give us between 0.54 and 1.1 million ton reduction over that period. And we need to be tracking reduction in municipal organic solid waste that has been collected as the trucks collect and they go through the weigh bills at the waste dumps. That is really the sectoral part, but we have also covered, as you saw in the document, issues of short-lived climate pollutants. One of the comments before we went for lunch was to understand what these short-lived climate pollutants are and what those greenhouse gases are. So these short-lived climate pollutants are those pollutants that do not stay for long in the atmosphere. Because remember, when you talk about climate change and climate forcing, we look at 100-year periods and beyond. But these ones we typically say they are short-lived, and you'll see that many of them actually have climate forcing characteristics, or can actually can actually cause climate change, while others are really just air pollutants. And this comes from the strategy for short-lived climate pollutants that has already been developed nationally. As I said, Uganda's first SLP plan and methane roadmap has been developed with climate action and clean air coalition. So it is focusing on both greenhouse gas and air pollutants. As you can see, short-lived climate pollutants does cut across the two. So you'll see that many of the key measures, in fact, almost all the measures that have been included in there have already been taken into account into the list that I've just presented. So for instance, what has already been there, things that will cover both short-lived climate pollutant reduction and greenhouse gases. Efficient stoves. Efficient stoves, already we have it as a measure in the energy sector. It will then reduce short-lived climate pollutants automatically, and vice versa. If we implement it as a short-lived climate pollutant, it will reduce GHG emissions automatically. So it really does not matter. What we are saying is that these measures on this side, they have dual or triple benefits. Whatever the motivation you are implementing it for, it will have a core benefit on the other side. If you are doing it purely for short-lived climate pollutants, you will also get the benefits for GHG emissions. These are an energy efficient and clean cooking initiatives targeting residential black carbon and methane, efficient charcoal kilns, lighting efficiency. You'll see that I'm repeating the things that I've already mentioned that side. Reduce transmission and distribution losses. Industrial energy efficiency, non-motorized transport, vehicle fuel efficiency, and electric vehicles. Switching to cleaner stoves and improving efficiency of charcoal cook stoves. Improve livestock productivity, expanding waste collection. So if we are to implement this, even for GHG emissions, and we then track how much of that we have done, already we simply then need to collect the data in implementation and convert it to then how much does that mean from an HFC short-lived climate pollutants perspective, because it will reduce both on one side and on the other. So we can report this as progress for both short-lived climate pollutants and for mitigation. Where there is some areas of things that have not been fully integrated, improved municipal waste management is identified as an additional measure beyond the current sector coverage. Expanding sewage without methane capture can increase emissions. Okay, this I think is a typing error, and also things around collection of increasing solid waste collection from waste. But you'll see that the bulk of this, if you go into the report, the bulk of the measures that have been proposed already on short-lived climate pollutants are already covered or already covering greenhouse gases. With that, colleagues, I think maybe I can just stop here, because then the rest is now adaptation. I hope this suffices for today.
Thank you so much, Tapelo. Could we stand up? You know what happens with learning at this age, having lunch. Before we go into an energizer, Dr. Matovu Charles, please make it to the registration desk. So we're going to have an energizer from Dennis Ross. Yeah, give us.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think you can get out of your chairs and return them back to get space, return them back to the tables and get some space. Get some space. Get a space of a play child, not for a big person, for a child that wants to play. This exercise is got from our childhood memories. Could someone remember how they are playful when they were still a child? Yeah? Someone should remember how playful they were. And the language we are going to use here is from Ateker cluster, particularly the Iteso language. Now, we are just from lunch. And in most cases, after you have had lunch, all the blood from the brain comes to break down the food here. And the other side is empty, so it wants us to start sleeping. So the game goes like this. The ladies in our language, in our Teso language, or a lady or a girl is called apese. Apese. Then the gentleman or the men are called esapat. Eh? Eh? A man is called esapat, or a boy is called esapat. Yeah? So this game goes like this. Yeah? I'm going to demonstrate, then you're going to tell them. So it goes on like this. It's called tickly, tickly. And you put all your hands. Yeah? As you play with your what? Your hands and the what? And the knees. Yeah? All of you will follow me. When I say ibelek inies apese, the ladies stand. Yeah? It's like this. Ibelek inies apese. Ibelek inies apese. Ibelek inies sapat. The sapat is for men. If you do otherwise, you're going to come and dance for us like Dube. Yeah? So the beauty is all of us have to sing. Only the word tickly, tickly, then I command a pese or a sapat. A sapat, eh? So we start tickly, 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 tickly. Ibele ginia pese. Ibele ginia pese. Ibele ginia sapat. Ibele ginia sapat. Tickly, 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 tickly. Ginia sapat. The ladies are standing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was really energetic. So let's take some questions for Tapelo.
Thank you very, very much, partners that have been helping us in this process. We are grateful to see how far you've progressed and excited to see the options that you're proposing. My name's Wori Domiciano. I'm from the energy sector, specifically the oil and gas subsector. And Commissioner, thank you and your team. We are happy to see that you've considered the subsector in our next commitment. We are very grateful for that because the sector is doing a lot in terms of emission reductions for which the country owes to get the due respect. So just allow me to ask a few things with respect to the proposal on the oil and gas. I would just have loved the consultant to, and if I missed this, I'm sorry, you could just go over it again. We just want to appreciate your basis of projection so that we have a good understanding on the figures that you're looking at. So the assumptions behind and the basis of your projection is something very keen for us to look at so that we know we have a target that is realistic and speaks to our expectations as a oil and gas sector. In general, we agree with the broad, apologies, I'm told I was very short. I wasn't visible. I have changed that. That's not the exact word used, but I know I'm a very short guy and I'm very proud of that. Yeah. So we would love to make some proposals and amendments in terms of making or improving the commitment under the oil and gas, because we realize it's a bit mixed, and also in terms of tracking the targets will be a bit difficult because it mixes two things that are handled in very two different ways. But that's something we'll work on, I think, in the working group. We just wanted also to appreciate, we see a very huge difference between the average and the maximum, and it doesn't kind of come out clearly the basis of that. But away from that, I know we are going to improve. We're going to make the targets more measurable, more smart. I think that's the word. So I think that's something we'll handle in the group. But I wanted to also appreciate something on the energy efficiency. Again, the average versus the maximum. Perhaps you help me appreciate this is an annual average or average for the whole NDC duration. And also help me point a picture in terms of the big difference between the average and maximum for energy efficiency. And on cooking, on residential, I see that you left out LPG, yet in our energy transition plan, as a country, the two key levers that we are going to have to move the population to clean cooking is using electricity and LPG. But I see for residential, you've left LPG. And I just want to appreciate that, because I think that is something that we need to look into. And also for commercial, this is cooking steel. I realize you have something on LPG without targets for the LPG. I think the rest of the bits we'll discuss in the group, but I just wanted to appreciate that, and also to say thank you to the team from the ministry for considering the subsector. Yeah.
Thank you so much, our presenter. That was good. I just have something, maybe I missed it, but still under energy, you talked of rehabilitation, and you are not explicit whether it is natural forest or plantation, yet we know that the forest cover is really going so fast, and people are converting eucalyptus to charcoal. I've got someone who was calling me to take a forest down for charcoal, and it was a kind of painful. So I think in the fact that we are also looking at sequestration, and you know that the natural ones give a bit more, I think we need to be clear in the targets that we are setting, as it said in the oil and gas. Then secondly, on the west side, I felt the consultant kept on mentioning collection and coverage, collection and coverage. Yes, like we are collecting now, and we were collecting and putting to Chitezi, but what is the next step after collection? I think that's where our biggest problem is. We need to encourage all partners in this to go another step, and maybe we recycle, we add value, and reduce also the other sources of the gases that we are avoiding. I felt we need to set targets beyond the collection and the coverage of the collection. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Capello and colleagues who are here. I've got two categories of compliments. The first one is that the consultant has done his work pretty well. And I think it is back to us who are here in Masaka to make value addition to what they have done. Why I say so, I've gone through the entire, I've tried to go through the entire report, both the mitigation and adaptation. And let me reconcile myself where I have the competence advantage of to talk, that's mitigation. I see we have got too many priority actions. And therefore, they cease to be priorities. So we need to, for us who are here between today and tomorrow, we are now the technical people here, we are the experts, we are the scientists. Let us try to tease out and look at what we call priorities in terms of innovations and uniqueness. What are we going to be different from what we always do in our work plans? To me, what he has done here is typically what we always do, the number of them, but we can tease out a number of them are for innovations and ambitious. We're supposed to be ambitious. By the time Mohammed and the team are going to go get resources for this, for implementing this NDC, they should go for innovative solutions, not business as usual. That's for us. Now for the short climate pollutants, I think I'm happy that we have reached here because it started from far. And it's to do with the traditional greenhouse gases has been with the guide with the UNFCCC guidelines. There are 6. It went look at the total protocol, but there are always emerging issues when it comes to development and therefore climate action. Of late, and not very recently, we are talking of the short climate pollutants. These are the gases that don't live long in the atmosphere, and yet they cause global warming faster than the traditional gases. Like methane accounts for 45% of the global warming compared to carbon dioxide. So we call them the non-carbon gases. They're also part of now climate action. And therefore, in our NDC 3, they have to be there. However, the approaches we had used were quite different from the process for NDC 3. So we had to reconcile. Because when you look at the National Action Plan for the short climate pollutants and National Methane Roadmap, they are looking at targets of gases. But here in NDC 3, we're looking at the economic-wide target. So we had to reconcile to avoid one, even double counting. So you cannot talk about methane twice. Okay? So what we have agreed is that now let us unify them. However, from what he has presented, I've got the following one. That we still, Capello, we still need to look at the National Action Plan. There's a chapter for what we call the mitigation pathways. I think that will help you explain what should be done for short climate pollutants without repeating even what you have already stated in mitigation actions. Like in the illustration you have made on the right where you're explaining what should be done, just look at the pathways and it will guide you on how best to illustrate how we can interrelate the two. The meeting points are obvious that we are going to have the National Implementation Action Plan for the NDC 3. And that's why we shall talk about the nitty-gritty about the actions, the targets, and what we call the multiple benefit approach for the two. And finally, possibly somebody said in the morning, and all of us have agreed, that we cannot do much and we cannot sell any investment if not talk about human livelihood. And so there's a section which I think, Capello, you have not included in the document on the health impacts of short climate pollutants in Uganda. I think we have got the information there in the action plan and the roadmap. I request you look at the health impacts and also incorporate just below the illustration of the short climate pollutants, the Venn diagram. That will make people here and beyond understand why we should talk about methane in terms of climate and air quality action, because air quality is part of climate action. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hold on to those questions a little bit. Tapelo, please, could you kindly respond?
Thank you very
Tapelo,
much.
are you on?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. Quite a few of them, oil and gas, compliment around seeing that this subsector is there. What is the basis of projection of this sector? Okay, so the basis of all the sectors were two documents, but primarily the 10-point growth strategy, which outlines the demand that is expected over a period of time, and how the sectors are planned to grow. But it is important that to understand that the projection there, we projected that sector, that growth of the sector, to say what would it mean if then there are no mitigation actions. It grows by that speed, but it does not. There are no mitigation measures implemented in there. I also wanted just one sec. I wanted to pull something out here because I actually mentioned it here. Yes, and also the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development's least cost electricity generation and transmission. Those are the two things that have been used primarily for baselining, but for the oil and gas, it is mostly the 10-point growth strategy. Clarify, or you'd like to make proposals in terms of improving the NDC. Please, we really welcome the inputs. As you said, some of the things could be much clearer, and we could separate oil and gas there to make them separate. We really would welcome those inputs from you after you have your working groups. What is the difference between average and maximum? So this comes from what I mentioned, that we use two different models. The models that we used to project these emissions or to do mitigation assessment is CLAOS and Sisepwede. The two of them they interact with the economy in different ways, and they have built-in factors that are slightly different. So one model will lean most, because of least cost, will move towards that particular measure and bring it earlier. The other model will bring it a little later. So what we have done is what we call the average is we have taken what Sisipwede says will be the reduction and what CLAOS says would be the reduction. And I see you there, Robert. Yes, I see you. I know you wanted this part also, that we have used Sisepwede and CLAOS in the mitigation measures also. So when we say average, it means we've taken the measure, the impact from Sisepwede model alone and the impact from CLAOS model alone, and we have taken the average. When you say maximum is between the two, we have looked at the one that gives us the highest number. So we have taken average and maximum in every case. Cooking residential, we left out LPG, which is one of the key levers in national strategy. I think that is a valid comment, and we really appreciate that. We will then take guidance from your working group on how best to include it. Similarly, on commercial cooking, you said we need LPG targets. I also look forward to those suggested targets from you. There's a question here that says, rehabilitation, is it of natural forests or plantations? It is definitely rehabilitation of natural forests, because plantations in principle do not contribute to climate change emissions, because you plant the tree and you cut it down, you plant the tree, you cut it down. They shouldn't contribute to emissions. But plantations should contribute to mitigation, because we are hoping that people will use wood from plantations and leave our natural forests alone. That is where the mitigation comes in. But when we say rehabilitation, is because we want our natural forests to go back to where they were, so that we reduce deforestation. Waste sector, what is the next step after collection? I think that is very critical. Even though we have included it, but in a not so obvious way. If you remember, under energy sector, one of the measures there that has been included, let me project, maybe we can see. It's better probably when I've projected than when I just talk. That you'll see, while your comment is truly valid, there is some part of the answer to your question is already there in the NDC, in the sense, this is adaptation. If you go back to energy, it's just that it appears in energy, so it is not very clear on the waste side, because you'll see that number one here says, then if you then collect that waste and you don't dump it, then you bring it and make use of it in terms of waste to energy. So you increase waste to energy. So it will pull, it answers to a certain degree your question of, we have collected it, what then? Of course, we can then do reduce, use, recycle, but one of the other things that we've included here, it is waste to energy. I also wanted to go onto this side. Yeah, I think that's what it is. But oh yes, and also here it is anaerobic digestion and composting. So the other thing, to the other part of the answer of what then do we do with it once we've collected it is, well, then we can then take it through anaerobic digestion and composting, in which case we change it from CH4 to CO2. But I'm happy for those inputs and contributions on what else we can do with that waste once we have collected it. Let me go to the questions. I accept those compliments also of us feeling that we have done fairly well. It remains the responsibility of the group to add value to that work. I saw that comment. And there's the comment that you made also that we have too many priority actions, which reduces the word priority. This need to be narrowed down, I think, by yourselves through the working groups. I think that would be a good idea. And by narrowing it down, another way of narrowing it down, because what I've realized is that different stakeholders, because we sit with the energy stakeholder, an entire group of energy stakeholders, an entire group of waste stakeholders, transport, other, everyone wants to see their thing mentioned in there. So if you try to narrow down by leaving somebody else's stuff, they don't really take it nicely. So so what I've tried to do is we've tried to reduce it as much as possible. So what I would suggest when you sit down and have your groups there is, I would say, maybe another way of reducing the number, reducing the priority list, is by clumping them together. Then you have 3 or 4 or 5 big impact mitigation measures that have a lot of things in them. As you saw in what I showed earlier, that the more you clump things together, of course, you lose a little bit of clarity, but that you can still enhance. But then you get a lot of impact in terms of mitigation. Let me demonstrate it again. I want to share. You'll see that those measures that have got quite a lot of things in them, let me see, there's one obvious one. Yeah, so for instance here, a lot of rehabilitation. So it's a number of things: restoring integrated forests, forest land use management, forest, reducing emissions from degradation and land degradation and deforestation. You see that it's quite a few things that are clumped together in this one. Therefore, it has a big mitigation impact. When otherwise we could have taken this and made them 3 or 4 separate things. Another way maybe that you can use, and that I want to demonstrate the same thing, is this one here, which include mechanization, expansion of irrigation systems, cultivation of vegetables. These are a number of things in one. Because of that, then they have a large mitigation potential. And I think the point is taken. I also needed to show this one here, that you see here you've got solar, you've got charcoal stoves, you've got fuel wood stoves, you've got electric cooking, all in one as one measure. rather than having 4 of them. I think consider this approach in terms of narrowing the list rather than throwing other measures out, because my experience is that people get very upset when they don't see their stuff coming out. I hope that helps. But I leave that to the working groups as you navigate through this. Too many priority action. Short-lived climate pollutants. We need to look at mitigation pathways of the SLP of the action of the climate action plan. I take those comments that I need to pull more information from that document. So the document I have. So it was a question of how much is enough to pull from that document to come into the NDC. And that balance is not an obvious one. But what you have said is that you certainly want to see at least the health impacts of SLPs in the NDC to emphasize the human-centeredness. So we can pull that in. But that balance, I think, we still need to manage, because we also don't want to pull the entire short-lived climate pollutants action plan into the NDC, but also we don't want it to be absent completely. We need to have the balance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Topelo. We are going to get into our group work, the working sessions. We realize some of the submissions coming in will actually be beneficial to the group work. So thank you once again. Let me hand over to Commissioner to guide us through the next process. Thank you.
When you said you are going to group work, people say, we are going to form groups and then argue whether we start to do, isn't it? Yeah? It's good to know where you belong, isn't it? Yeah? So thank you very much. My work is really to guide on group work. Tapero, thank you very much. Can you help me put one of the slides of the mitigation measures? As we do that, there are questions that were asked in the morning. Savagans have not yet forgotten the question about the reporting and the tools. But allow me to first skip that for now, but I'll respond to it because I have an answer for it. So I think we are going to have 5 groups. Today we are looking at mitigation as mentioned, isn't it? We are going to have 5 groups. May I have Junior Waman to stand up? Junior, you are going to lead a group which is going to be looking at forests and land use. In the land use, there is also what we call wetlands. Okay? What does it mean is that we want to do things differently. As we discussed, we want Junior to capture in the main document which we have shared. Okay? In track change. So Junior will be responsible to provide all the feedback that will come from the group which will discuss forest mitigation and land use, isn't it? Okay? The second group will be on energy and transport. Now, energy and transport, Domiciano, you can just stand up, you stretch a bit. It works with the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, not so? It is under Ministry of Energy, not so? So you are the right person, yeah? And then we have Dr. Adam Sebit, who has been a national consultant on climate change and energy issues. Dr. Sebit, if you don't mind, you can let people see you. So, meaning that people that will subscribe themselves, okay, to the energy and transport group, these will be the guys that will be capturing all the feedback that you provide, okay? So, Dom, I think you will take lead in this. We shall look for you to provide accountability of the input of these people under energy and transport. Do I have a colleague from Ministry of Works and Transport? Do we have? No. So that is group number 2. Group number 3 is on industry. Anybody from trade and industry? If you don't mind, you can just stand up. They said it is one of the smallest groups, isn't it? Because the energy under industry, we cannot double count. It is captured under energy. That is the international. Okay? So anybody or the group that will be interested in discussing issues of industry, my sister here will capture all the feedback that you provide in track changes. So that we pick out this. Then group number 4 is waste plus short-lived climate change pollutants. Done. You decided to sit both of you, eh? West and Fred. Please, you just stand up, people to see you. Now, the other time you told me it is not called, it is called waste resources, not just waste. So now, those interested in the waste resources, isn't it? Plus the short-lived climate change pollutants, then we'll do the actual capturing, because you want track changes, you want input in the document which you have shared, isn't it? So all that we'll be discussing with you, you will be responsible to capture. After all, these are your things. Because it is your sector that will be collecting all the data and information on waste, isn't it? To implement the NDC, that's what it means. The last group is on production. Okay? Production is looking at crop and livestock. Do you have somebody from the Ministry of Agriculture? Don't hide. That is the crop and what? And livestock, the issues of fertilizers and all that kind, we are going to be discussed under that group. So if you don't have anybody, where is Lisa? Lisa, you're going to capture all the input that people that will be discussing under crop and livestock in track changes. You capture, so you are responsible to account for that group, whatever they're going to bring. Now, those are the key people, so you know where they are, isn't it? Now, how do we split ourselves into groups? One, I would say that we have the natural resources and the forestry people, isn't it? And there are very many in this group. I don't want to throw you under one group. Please just stand up. The natural resources, people who are coming from the natural resources department in simple terms. The majority. So what we are going to do, our colleagues from natural resources, because for you, you are industry, you are waste, you are waste resources. Eh? Waste resources, isn't it? Yeah? So let us try to do this one very fast. Please just move forward. We'll do it very fast because we are allocating. Eh? Please let us just get these groups. May I invite the group leaders, the capturers of the notes? I'm going to give you people. Otherwise, if you leave them to allocate themselves, they'll go to one group. I'm going to give you people. We are doing for group number 1, eh? Isn't it? Group number 1, please move. I want to give you people because these people of natural resources, they are everywhere. They are cross-cutting. And you see, they are very many. Don't want them to only congest the forestry, isn't it? And wetlands. Other groups do not have people. So, Dan, for you don't need, yeah? Okay. Where is, you come here, I'm going to give you people. People are going to line up. This is like LC1, yeah? You'll be here. So we shall get to know where we belong, isn't it? Industry here. Industry here. This is the actual forest and wetland, yeah? This one is the agriculture. You heard from the morning, Mohammed Semuka was saying that these are the people who what? So this is waste resources, yeah? Waste resources. Bring energy here. Bring energy here. Hey, gentlemen, they were lining up before the instructions. We are doing group number 1. Please be here. Now what we do, without fear or favor, we want to split ourselves accordingly. You go there, come here, you come here. That's why we say these are all natural resources. We are splitting them because they don't be in one group. Don't have. Hey, colleague from the ministry, energy. Ministry of Energy, please come. Okay, now this is what we're going to do. All of you don't line up under one. That's what we're trying to avoid. Don't line up here in the forest. also support these other groups because you are everywhere, isn't it? Yeah? So, sir, you got the next one. You got the next one. I'm going to introduce you. You got the next one. West. Please, you be coming. Where you are very many, I'm going to introduce you. You join this one. Join this line. Join this line. Huh? Huh? Industry. Industry, where are you? Industry is here. Please. Okay, you don't know where you belong, eh? Okay. Richard. Hey, well, you have a special interest there. Please come. There is no exam. It's about group work. You come and join these groups. Okay. 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 Since there will be no, you join here. Huh? Huh? Now, you which group are you, sir? But which group is this one? This is West. Done. Can you take note of these people here? Hmm? No, there will be no other person. They will only discuss the West. The thing that they finish. Now, sir, forestry, you go with your people. You go. This is forestry. Take their contacts, please. Write them. You just go. Take note of them. Take note of them. Take note of them. Now you are remaining. Your person has gone. You go with your person. You go. Please, you go. Now, the rest of the dinner are ours, yeah? Let us do like this. Dan, still remain there. The rest of the dinner are ours. You know where you belong, eh? Don't join this group here. So you can go back. You know where you belong, eh? You can go back. Don't join this group here. Because that was the worry. That was the worry. Now, you remain there. We are bringing other people for you. The other group is done. Now, our colleagues who are coming from urban authorities or urban, the cities, we have KCCA. Anybody who's coming from Jinja City, we have Wachiso City. Our colleagues who are coming from the city. Let's do this one very fast. Eh? You come from the city, eh? You are under West. This is what I want to, because under city, there are key issues. There is the issues of transport and energy. There's issues of waste. That's why I want also to do what? To finish that one. So there is only one person, yeah? Only three. Where are they? And Wakiso. Arua, Kampa, and Wakiso. Now, we want one of them to join the energy and transport because it is very key. You'll be for West, yeah? Now, what about, because the issues to do with the, what about Arua? West. What about Wakiso's municipality? What? Okay. What you do, they have taken note of you. This is the guy for West where I have interest. But know that in the urban centers, there's also issue to do with energy and the transport, which is really very key in terms of emission reduction. Okay, so those who have no group, please first stand up. Those who have no group. Those who have no group. For you have a group already. You are in what? You are in transport. Now, those who have no group, can you just come in front here? And those who don't know what to do, I'm also going to call you. Those who have no group, but they know what to do, you come. We are doing group work, so people want to tour tomorrow, and then they don't come for group work. If you don't have a group, now, here, we want to be very much objective, isn't it? We don't want to, now, we have agriculture. Do you have production officers? Do you have those who are coming from production department? Please line up here. Just join here. You're not going anywhere. So we're also sorting you, production. We're going to discuss issues to do with the livestock, crops, and all that kind. Production done. I'm about to invite friends of production, those who eat food. So that's the group which is going to be discussed. Now, these are the core people. They know what it means, but I'm going to add you other people. Now, anybody who is for industry and trade, commercial officers, where are you? Commercial officers first join here. Here, that is the person, yeah? Take note. Any other commercial officer? Don't go in waste resources. You come here. Commercial officers done, isn't it? Now, this group is what? Community. You want energy? Please join. Please join. You wanted the forest? No. You want? Now, you live in energy alone, yeah? Please join energy. Anybody who want to join energy? Join energy. Engineer, go to energy. Also go to energy. Now energy has enough. Waste resources, I'm adding you. Waste resources. Waste resources. You want production, please go. Production, go. Production, please go. Forestry. Forestry had more than enough. But you have a project in the forestry. You go to forest and register. Sir, I'm adding you to industry because I know you have a lot of buildings. We've been talking about clinker substitution. Also join here. Now, Fred Onya is part of you. Short-lived climate change program. Now, those who are there and they don't know what to do. Rebecca, I have not seen you. Which group are you? This is the, Rebecca, you are for West. You are for West. Okay, now, Aribo, you come and join energy. I have not seen you people. Did you? Opium. Opium, where are you? Which one? You do like this. What is this? Eh? You are coming, eh? So you choose your group. Which one is your group? Doctor, you're going to join energy. Okay? Okay. Who did not get a group? Because there's a group which is going to sweep this room. I hope all of us will have the group, isn't it? Yeah? Now, we know these are going to be facilitators. We know our groups, we can go back. Now, those people who have been there, they are going to capture our what? Our feedback, isn't it? Yeah? These will be the bosses to capture our feedbacks. So we can go back. Now we can just listen to the instruction. What are we going to do? Okay? Now, Sapero, I requested you to put one presentation because I'm finalizing. What are we going to do in these groups? It is important to know what we're going to do in these groups. Sapero, are you there? One slide of those interventions. Can he or you can do it? Sapero, can you put one slide back? Just one slide of the interventions. Now, what we are going to do is just simple, but it means a lot. We are going to look what? Very good. Let us use this example. Know where we belong, isn't it? Yeah? We are going to look what these interventions. We have them in the main NDC document we have shared. Okay? We are going to look at these interventions. Now, all these interventions, before this intervention, when we look at the document itself, it describes the sector in the document. It gives assumptions, isn't it? Then after giving assumptions, now it gives the interventions proposed, isn't it? Yeah? So now what we're going to do is actually to look at this intervention under the sector. Because you have known the emissions in the morning, isn't it? Yeah? How are projected to be growing under each sector, isn't it? Now, are these interventions adequate enough, or are they fit to reduce emission in our sectors? These are the interventions. Now, this part here is just helping you to understand the intervention. Each intervention has a description, isn't it? what does this intervention mean? This is what they are trying to explain. Now, this part and this part, we don't expect you to deal with it because you don't have the background information, but this coming from the modeling, that if you do this intervention, it can help us reduce this. So we don't expect you to draw a lot into that direction, okay? But the last direction is very important. That's why the key focus is actually here and here. This is just to help you understand what they mean by this one, isn't it? Yeah? Now, when you go to the indicator, if you agree with the intervention, isn't it? Yeah? And you go to the indicator, is that indicator smart enough? Okay? Is it measurable? Shall we be able to track it? Is it aligned with our strategies and policies, like NDP, any of our strategies and policies, isn't it? Yeah? NDP4, maybe it can be a sectoral strategy, isn't it? Which we have to reducing emission. Because if the indicators are not smart, then we are going to go back in NDC 2.0 of failing to track the progress of its implementation. That's what it means. Okay? First and foremost, is the intervention adequate to enable us reduce the emissions as we are projected in the morning, isn't it? Now, if we do this intervention, shall we be able to measure this intervention? Now, how do you talk about measurement? Is, first of all, is this intervention, shall we be able to implement it? Is it implementable between 2030, 2035? How shall we measure it and where is it aligned? It is maybe part of NDP4, isn't it? Maybe it is part of the agriculture NAP, maybe it's part of the NAP, maybe the energy transition plan, isn't it? etc. So this is what we want to get. So, but there could be also other things which are missing that when implemented, they can help us reduce emission in that sector. We can as well identify them. But bearing in mind that issues of energy, even if they are in which sector, are captured under energy. Does it make sense? Issues of energy, even if they are in which sector, are captured under what? So that means that that work, somebody will make comparison that this is good, but it is being captured under energy. The way you saw the example of what? The example of industry, isn't it? Yeah? There is energy in industrial processes. It is captured under energy because that is the guidance. Now, when it came this other side of industry, it is about clinker substitution and material etc, isn't it? Which is the non-energy, because you cannot double count for this emission reduction. Does that facilitate understanding? Okay. Robert, do you have any other addition? Oh, I have summarized it. Now, how do we do the group work? We know we cannot finish this group work today. It is not possible. But tomorrow, by 10 a.m., we should have finished the mitigation. That's why we, instead of making them two groups to be bigger, we decided to split them into smaller groups so that now people can focus and provide input, isn't it? So meaning that you can either choose to start now, and tomorrow when you come early, you continue. But what we expect by 10, we are done with the mitigation. We shall just give each group just to give key highlights. So that now, that's why these people who are going to be capturing, they will submit everything that we have discussed, isn't it? So we shall just give each group 5 minutes, just give key highlights, but banking on this one, which are going to be taking notes in the main document, that they will submit a full what? A full group discussion. That is it. Clear? We want to wind up this session. I see some people want to do group work, or they want to go now that they know their groups.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have some inquiry on those tables. I don't know whether it's a mistake, but it might misguide us somewhere where the projections are by 2025 and we are in 2026. I don't know if it's me who has not understood it. And when we are trying to review them, it might confuse because it's not only in one place, but in quite a number of places which I've highlighted. but also there is some of the descriptions don't have quantification, yet others have. There are some have like by 75% by 2035, others are just statements. So when you come to the indicator, it might be hard for us to develop a smart indicator with a statement. And then also tracking progress might be hard. Maybe we need some clarification on that.
Thank you. Relatedly, my understanding is that we're looking at a 5-year NDC, right? Yeah, but I see in the table of 2026, 2035, which is a 10-year period. So it's not clear for me there, because I thought we should be looking at interventions or measures for 5 years, not 10 years.
Okay. So Tapero, are you there? Or you aren't there?
I am here. I am here. And I had those comments. So so I think let's focus on the 2031 to 2035 period as the key things. But you'll understand that when we do modeling, some of the interventions from the strategy that we extract from, the strategy would have talked about things from 2015, 2018, 2030, even up to 2070. So we modeled it continuously, not just as a 5-year period. But I suggest that when you give us inputs around where you want to see penetration or how much in terms of the size of the mitigation measure, give us data only relevant to 2031 and 2035. We will then extrapolate it beyond, because the model sort of runs a bit forward and back. And remember, we model everything from 2019 because it has to be aligned with the GAG inventory. So that would be my suggestion. Where you don't see clarity in terms of details, I would recommend that the working groups then say, no, there's a strategy that we can use to give us more details around the target, around the quantities. And then you put it there to say, here maybe let's look at this particular strategy to give us guidance. I hope that helps.
Mike Tapero, Doctor, one thing to note is that even when the intervention is not clear, let's put a comment that this is not clear, because if it's not clear from the design, it will never be implemented, because it will mean nobody's what. So this is also to facilitate understanding. But where there's no description, we can just say that please provide description here. Or if you know the strategy where the intervention can be comprehended, then we recommend that strategy, this is where I can get some bit of what? Description. This is the essence of this group. These things should make sense to us. If they don't make sense to us, we shall not implement them. That's what it means. Can you implement what you don't know? If you fail to understand it from the design, so how are you going to implement it? So this is actually the basis behind why we need to do this group work. If an intervention is clear, well and good, that one, just leave it. If it's not clear, then say maybe this is not what? Not clear, it needs to be improved or beefed up. That you provide what? And then you can propose the intervention, how it should be made clear. So this is why we want to have this full group work. Domiciano, I think he has responded that the focus now, let us look at, because this is NDC 3.0 and is a new NDC, whose implementation is expected to start 2030, 2035, Robert, not so. So meaning that, but there are some of interventions that we have been doing already, but that will be clarified when we are trying to do the final version of the document. So that now does not have overlap, because they also bring issues in the bioannual transparency reporting. You cannot report under 2 NDCs. This will be corrected. Okay? So that is the group work. Would you want to start? So, Tapero, we are in
Yes,
group
Mehdi?
work. We are in group work, so
Yes.
there is no more questions for you. Please go and take evening tea. But we're expected to be around tomorrow.
Okay.
You time we shall be ready here in terms of doing the group work, but at least by 9:30 should be on to get quick feedback from the group, just summarized, and then we continue the adaptation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And all the best with the group work. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.